Hey there, sexy listener. I hope you took that intro as a compliment, and I hope that if you are a listener that it would be inappropriate for me to call sexy, that you take into account that I do not know the intimate specifics of who is listening right now. In fact, on second thought, let me rephrase. Hello, neutral hearer of the waveforms I am creating with my voice. That's much better. It's me, Josh Bloom. This is the latest edition of 1,461 Days of Ignoring with Josh Bloom, the brand new standalone weekly podcast feed for the 1,461 Days of Ignoring the Trump Administration series, in which I endeavor to remind myself and you, if you feel like it, to remain mindful, optimistic, and hopeful during these challenging 1,461 days. This podcast compiles the audio every week from my daily posts in the series. If you want to watch these daily posts in real time, you can do so on YouTube, Instagram, Substack, or TikTok if you're nasty. Go to superjews.com to access links to all of my social media. That's superjews.com. I will continue to post a compilation of the daily videos each week on YouTube. You can be alerted about this, and each time 1,461 Days of Ignoring with Josh Bloom goes live by subscribing to my Substack at superjews.substack.com. My Substack also includes content not available elsewhere. You'll be notified each time the Josh Bloom podcast goes live, and you'll receive my original writing directly to your inbox. All of this for the cost of an email address, and if you feel like supporting my work, you can subscribe at various paid tiers for even more extras, and boy oh boy, those extras are really extra. Remember, this podcast is the only place that you can hear me intro and outro the series with my actual voice, not disgusting generative AI, which means you might occasionally be called sexy. And now, let's get into 1,461 Days of Ignoring the Trump Administration, days 313 through 319. This week on the show, on day 313, I bring a blast from the past. Do you remember Ranking Roger? He is one half of the synthy, new wavy, geeky duo General Public from the 80s. I invoke their hit song Tenderness because I am of the belief that we are about to enter an era of tenderness and subsequently togetherness. Somehow, this develops into a discussion of tenderizing steaks. I hope not to lose the non-meat eaters in the crowd, but please cut me a little slack and it will all make sense. Speaking of tenderness, on day 314, I comment on the one campaign promise that the leader of the Trump administration remembered to keep, and that is regarding the 1,600 pardons he gave to the J6 rioters. That's about as tender as it gets. I opine on the idea that the leader of the Trump administration thinks of these rioters as his children, and he is only protecting them. In fact, I believe that these criminals, who did not pay for the crimes that he egged on, love him more than his own biological children. On day 315, I get a little deep on the subject of self-reflection and how this is difficult for everyone, but especially, it seems, for the leader of the Trump administration, who appears to make it a practice to never reflect. I am sometimes accused of obsessing about this topic, but I do not think it is strange to wonder if the person whose words and deeds are so consequential to the future of humanity ever thinks about those words and deeds before they are said and did. On day 316, I get to chat with a commenter named Big John 0482, who not only calls the leader of the Trump administration a god, but he adds 5 exclamation points to that statement. After acknowledging Big John's passion, however, I feel the need to question why he only refers to the leader of the Trump administration as merely a god. Then I am, of course, reminded of General Zod from the film Superman 2, and the day gets derailed from there. Stay tuned if you dare. On day 317, if you're feeling pessimistic about the chances that non-believers in the leader of the Trump administration and the Trump administration have in upcoming elections, which I must remind you will be held in case you are so deep into a depression like me, I discuss the recent historic wins for democracy, but more realistically, sanity. On this day, I happened to be in NYC, a rare occurrence to be sure these days. I discussed this day at length on episode 60 of the Josh Bloom podcast. Be sure to follow. Day 318 has me discussing the horrific news about the murder of Rob Reiner and his wife, Michelle Reiner, and the disgusting comments about it that followed from the leader of the Trump administration. Beyond the obvious sadness of this event, I felt the need to acknowledge that when I heard the news, my first thought was that this must have been political or religious violence or both. We are living in scary times when it comes as a relief that a double homicide is likely the act of a mentally ill family member. I continue to believe that we will be better for what we are going through right now. We wrap up the week on day 319 with me wondering about indifference and intolerance. I continue to observe that people are generally good to one another, but the little things matter too. If a person never uses a turn signal while out on the road, to me, this non-signal is a signal that says I am the only person who matters. I always wonder if a person like this is indifferent to all of the other drivers out on the road, what are they like in the rest of their lives? They are probably like the leader of the Trump administration, who doesn't even know about turn signals because he only drives a golf cart. Just wait until you hear what I suggest Willie Nelson does about this. Enjoy, if that's possible, and I will see you on the other side.
Day 313 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. I am not a self-help guru. I'm just trying to help myself. You all remember Ranking Roger, right? I remember Ranking Roger, but I do not remember the other gentleman. I apologize. The group General Public had a hit song titled Tenderness. My fellow Gen Xers will know what I'm talking about. I believe we are on the precipice of a new era of people craving togetherness, and togetherness requires tenderness. The reason I believe we are on the precipice of tenderness, which I say not only because I mean it, but because I like the way it sounds, is because I see our evolving tenderness every day. When you make a steak, and if you are a vegetarian, I'm sorry, I do not have a comparison to make at the ready. But when you make a steak, you tenderize that steak in order to break down muscle fibers to create a softer, easier to bite chew. You improve flavor absorption with marinades, and you make it more digestible. When you tenderize yourself, you are doing the same with the potential to make relationships easier to digest. When we are willing to have our muscle fibers broken down, and I don't mean your actual muscles, come on, I'm talking about muscle fibers representing tough emotional walls that keep us separated from one another, we can become tender. Based on conversations I have every day with real people in the real world, I am finding that everyone, no matter what their political ideology, is getting sick and tired of divisive rhetoric and mistreatment of our neighbors by our neighbors. I am a person who enjoys all people because all people are interesting to me. They may not realize it, but sometimes even the people that I find to be the most difficult are also the most interesting because I have an inherent need to know why they became so goddamn difficult. I could be wrong. We could be headed towards the end of human connection. I just don't believe that, though. I believe most people can agree that tenderness, by general public, is a stone cold jam. I bet even Donald Trump would do his double fisted jerk dance to show his appreciation. Until then, I'll keep on ignoring the Trump administration. Day 314 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. I am not a self-help guru. I'm just trying to help myself. The leader of the Trump administration made lots of promises about what he would do on the first day. The leader of the Trump administration did keep one of those promises that he made. No, it wasn't the one about lowering the price of groceries or ending the war in Ukraine. It was the one about pardoning all of the J6 defendants and convicts. I have heard an equivalency argument made time and time again that goes, well, Joe Biden pardoned his son Hunter. He sure did now, didn't he? I have to comment on that argument, not with the reality of the disparity of the charges and the amount of pardoned people, which is one person versus 1,600 people, but with what I see is the same about these pardons. Dad pardoning child. The leader of the Trump administration sees these pardoned defendants and convicts as his children. In fact, I would venture to guess that if asked, and I would be happy to ask him myself in a way that he would likely answer because I do think he would appreciate my tone, I would ask the leader of the Trump administration if his actual children had ever defended him as vigorously as those defendants and convicts. I would venture to guess that the answer is no. I think the leader of the Trump administration would look me in my eyes and not say anything, but he would just make that knowing shrug he makes, which indicates, yeah, you got me there. I merely wanted to take this opportunity to point out to those who are either bots, hired malign actors, or the insane who come into the comments to try and shake me from my resolve, that I agree that the leader of the Trump administration is not a complete and total liar when it comes to his first day promises. Now that Donald has pardoned so many members of law-breaking organizations, I feel like he should found one of his own. Have you ever seen the sequel to The Shining called Dr. Sleep, starring Ewan McGregor? Well, if you don't know that one, surely you know Sleepy of the Seven Dwarves. I am thinking that Donald could be the founder of the terrible rest group called the Oath Sleepers. That seems like an appropriate designation. Until then, keep on promising to ignore the Trump administration. Day 315 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. I am not a self-help guru. I'm just trying to help myself. Can we take a moment to reflect on reflection? The fear of looking at oneself is simply too much if you are not ready to do so. I know what it's like. I could recommend a 3-letter substance to help with that, but let's save it for another time. What is it like to be a person who does not reflect? This is a question I ask myself sometimes when I think about the leader of the Trump administration. And while I am often accused by bots in the comments of obsessing about the man, this is objectively not true. He is one of, if not the most consequential figure in the world, and so a brief daily reflection upon his behavior and how it affects me and you is not an obsession. It is actually the very act that he does not engage in which endangers so many of us. Now, the leader of the Trump administration has gathered around him another group of people incapable of self reflection. I suppose Ms. Christie Noem's reflection in her autobiography on the untimely demise of her pet dog could be considered reflection of some kind, although I have a feeling she simply enjoyed reliving the experience. Side note, I hope that Christie grows a beard so that we can call her Christie Nome. Gnome. In general, these are people who do not think about their actions or contemplate their behaviors in order to understand who they are and how they may evolve and become better people in the future. In fact, these are people who already think they are the better people that most of us who are not sociopaths think about wanting to become. I believe that most rational people look at themselves and look at their life and contemplate how they can improve, both based on mistakes made and accomplishments achieved. I do not fool myself into thinking that the people who are currently running our government have any interest in this type of education, and so I will go back to ignoring the Trump administration. Day 316 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. I am not a self-help guru. I'm just trying to help myself. Commenter Big John 0482 says, President Trump is not a king. He's a capital G-O-D God! Exclamation point times 5. Well, Big John 0482, everyone looks for a passion in life, and I am excited for you about finding yours. It seems to me that when a person arrives at a moment in life when they are ready to be baptized into the kingdom of a corrupt cryptocurrency kook, then that is a moment we should all stop and pay attention to it. But I do question, Big John 0482, why you refer to your God as merely a God. Because your 5 exclamation points tell me that you believe he is the God. And so, Big John 0482, I think that if you would like your God's approval, your God's love, and your God's hand on your shoulder to guide you through life like a good boy, you should amend your comment to indicate his supreme authority over your existence. Now, I may have gotten your words mixed up, Big John 0482. Maybe you meant to type, he's odd, which grammatically would have problems that I am very picky about. But, Big John 0482, if you meant to say he's odd, then you and I might have more in common than I originally thought. Perhaps you meant to say he's a Zod, referring to the villain from the film Superman 2, who commands Superman to kneel before him, which sounds like something you might be familiar with. Just a guess. But really, Big John 0482, I do think you do mean that he's a god, and I will stand behind my original criticism of your comment to say once again that it would be best, and I'm sure the leader of the Trump administration would agree, if you would come back to me and let me know that you were mistaken by not saying he's the God. Big John 0482, I look forward to hearing from you about this situation. I will be waiting while ignoring the Trump administration. Thank you. Day 317 of 1,461 Days of Ignoring the Trump Administration. I am not a self-help guru. I'm just trying to help myself. The non-believers in the leader of the Trump administration and the Trump administration, of which I am one, are feeling good about the incredible gains we are seeing with recent historic wins, not only for democracy, but honestly, sanity. In Miami, Florida, with the mayoral race, and in the Georgia State House. I think it's great. But for me, the good feelings aren't necessarily directly related to political gains or to 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. For me, it is about the moment, right now. I harness the good news to fight the holiday blues. I find this time of year incredibly depressing. Holiday songs make me sick, and not even in a tangible way that I can connect with physically, emotionally, or mentally. It is a feeling of unease, like a mild earthquake. Oh, even the ground itself is unstable. Great. I am here in New York City right now on a little day trip to get away from it all, but all is always here with us now, isn't it? Honestly, I am in town to see the movie Kill Bill, The Whole Bloody Affair, a film by a man everyone seems to be mad at right now. So how appropriate for me to travel into Manhattan to watch this film, knowing that it is shrouded in the same negativity that I must push aside during this time of year in order to feel the good feelings I mentioned earlier. Don't worry, I will enjoy the film today. I don't allow artifice to get in the way of art. The beauty of artistic creation, even by people who may be questionable or worse in their real life behavior, and that's a lot of the artists you like, believe me, is that it can take us to a different world than the one we were living in before we looked. Then there are some people who actually don't make anything but problems and trouble. I'll leave that last comment for further examination. Please enjoy your day and enjoy ignoring the Trump administration. Day 318 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. I am not a self-help guru. I'm just trying to help myself. I am relieved. The murder of Rob and Michelle Reiner was not political or religious violence. When the news broke last night, my first thought was, I hope this is not political violence. I hope this is not anti-Semitism. This is the world we are living in right now, where it is a relief to find out that a violent double homicide is not political violence or anti-Semitism, but an awful domestic tragedy that has allegedly been perpetrated by the couple's troubled son. Day 318 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration was initially going to be about the very fact that we are living in times when it is not unusual to react as if a tragedy like this would be political in nature, like the recent political killings, or anti-Semitic, like this past weekend's crimes on Bondi Beach in Australia. The reason today is not about that anymore is because right on time, the leader of the Trump administration posted what I believe is the most disgusting, demoralizing, and frankly inhuman comments that I have ever seen someone post or say about another human being. Even for him, one of the most vile ghouls we have known in our lifetime, these comments go beyond what I thought was possible or imaginable. It is not unexpected. I expected he would post some disgusting words, but it is surprising how low he could go. My reaction to his reaction is sadness that we have to walk among people who support this person, this position, and this poison on our souls. I am also reminded of why he does this, and that makes me sad too. It is because, whether he is conscious of it or not, he will never be celebrated as someone who's created anything that has brought joy to anyone's life. He only brings anger and pain. And ironically, since it refers to Rob Reiner's film and also the book it is based on by another Trump detractor, Stephen King, Misery. Donald Trump will spend the rest of his days lashing out in frustration. Celebrate Rob Reiner today and ignore the Trump administration. Day 319 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. I am not a self-help guru. I'm just trying to help myself. What troubles me the most about the reign of lame that is the leader of the Trump administration and the Trump administration is when I witness the general wearing down of curiosity about people who are different, also known as intolerance, and the erosion of caring about other people, also known as indifference. Despite my constant reminders to myself about mindfulness, optimism, and hope, these are the behaviors that I actually do see in everyday life. I am mentioning it here so we can all be on the lookout. It starts with the little acts of what could be forgetfulness, like no turn signal, for example. And it develops into, I don't have to use a turn signal if I don't want to. And then it becomes F you, followed by an ethnic slur and come and do something about it. Isn't it much easier and frankly safer to just use the turn signal? And furthermore, isn't it making society a better place to pay just this little teeny tiny bit of attention to helping your fellow citizen on the road that everyone shares? Willie Nelson is too old at this point to have to revise his song On the Road again to On the Road with a Bunch of Douchebags Again. Despite the increasing hateful, vile, and disgusting comments that come from the leader of the Trump administration that seem to give permission to indulge the worst behavioral impulses of his worst followers, also known as the basket of deplorables. I believe most people are not only good, most people want to be good. Let's counter the reign of lame locally, and it will stick to the entire nation. Use a goddamn turn signal and ignore the Trump administration.
Hey, Josh Bloom here. How are you feeling? So, I know I said Willie is too old, but maybe someone who uses generative AI who is not me can make On the Road with a Bunch of Douchebags again. That would mean a lot to me. Thanks again for listening. Please leave a 5-star rating for the 1,461 Days of Ignoring with Josh Bloom podcast in your podcast app and leave a comment saying that you like the show. If you do not like the leader of the Trump administration, I can't stop you from saying that too. It's on you. Please tell a politically curious friend about the show, and while you're at it, please follow me on all of my social media by going to superjews.com, that's superjews.com, where you will find the links you are looking for. Lastly, if you'd like to throw some support to me and the show, please subscribe to my Substack at superjews.substack.com, or you can buy me a coffee. For a mere $3, you will earn my undying gratitude, or at least enough gratitude to last until I ask you to buy me a coffee again. Go to buymeacoffee.com/Josh Bloom. Please don't forget what this show is for. We are in trying times that try to take our time away from what is important. I try to reclaim that time and regain my mind in order to stay mindful, optimistic, and hopeful for myself and the people I love. I am glad you are here every week with me. See you next time, and until then, remember, I am not a self-help guru. I'm just trying to help myself. Bye.